Please.
Yeah. Well.
Okay, I've got a few things I was going to start off with. I know there's a few people still standing in the back, but I think they'll still be able to hear as we begin. First of all, I'd like to call this annual town meeting as open. Next thing I'd like to say is I hope everybody had a really nice Mother's Day. The weather was great. It was a good weekend. So happy Mother's Day to all of you. My name is Joe LaValle, and I'm your town moderator. In 1670, on August 8th, was the first town meeting in Hatfield. Now, that was 343 years ago that this town meeting process started and hasn't stopped. So they've gone through a lot of issues over those 343 years, but we're still here as a town and we're still neighbors. Years ago, they used to go long into the night due to meeting only once a year. Nowadays, there are many committee meetings and boards that do their business and raise issues on a weekly basis. They're debated before coming here once a year to finalize all their work for all of us to vote for or against. We certainly discuss and challenge some of this work, but the complete details of the issue have been discussed over and over to get here. So at times it's best to move to a vote after a bit of discussion, while at other times, where something is very deep-rooted and quite involved, we do spend a little more time on it. There is never any disrespect intended, but rather the respect for your time in attending and finalizing town business. I try to point that out because years ago, when I was younger, some of these meetings would go well into 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. That's very unfair to our senior citizens. It's very unfair to our parents with young children at home. So generally, I shoot for 10 o'clock. If we're almost done, let's finish it up. If we're going to push it past 10 o'clock, then we'll have to come on another night. So again, I mean absolutely no disrespect, but it's out of respect for many people. Some of the first articles voted on are annual ones that need to be voted each year so we can operate as a town. So with that said, I welcome you again and I thank you for your participation. Now last year I was approached by some new town residents and they asked if I could introduce a few of the people that are here to present some of these issues. I suppose we all take it for granted that we know each other. My apologies for that. So I'll do this very quickly. Over here we have Bill O'Neill, our town attorney. Louise Slish is here to help out. She retired as of April 1st, but she's certainly willing to give a hand to get through this transition time. Greg Winters, thank you. Greg Winters is our treasurer. Lydia Zish is running for our town clerk. She's here if someone sees her and wants to talk any issues with her. Edwina Pelisamo is here. She's been helping Louise for quite a long time. I will try not to put her on the spot at all, but again, I'm your moderator, Joe LaValle. Over here we have Jan Adamski, chairman of the Board of Selectmen. We have Jeff Boyle, member of the Board of Selectmen, and Ed Leschko, the other member of the Board of Selectmen. You can raise your hand. So again, on the Finance Committee, Chairman is Sean Berry. We have Veronica Carroll, Fran Goodgen, Darrell Williams, and Paul Fisher. I don't see him here right now. That's one of the issues of having young kids. Down here we have Phil Genovese, the DPW Director, Paul Boudreau, the Town Administrator, Paul Lyons, our accountant, and Kai Eno, secretary. John Roberts is here. He's our school superintendent. And I did want to say a really big thank you. I rarely ever do this, but to John Novak and his work with the HCTV team. They've made it accessible for many people that can't be here. If I missed someone, my apologies. So let's get started with the first article. Who's going to take it?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I move we take up Article 2.
second.
The motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 2 as in your handouts.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I move the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for, accept, and expend without appropriation any state or federal grants and gifts and awards from any public or private source that becomes available in fiscal year 2014.
Second.
You've heard the motion made and seconded under Article 2. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Boyle.
Mr. Moderator, I move we take up Article 3. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 3 as issued in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Boyle.
I move the town vote to authorize its treasurer to enter into compensating balance agreement or agreements for fiscal year 14 pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53F of the General Laws.
You've heard the motion made and seconded under Article
3.
3. Excuse me. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Leschko.
I move we take up Article 4.
The motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 4 as issued in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Leschko.
I move that the town vote to accept and expend monies that become available under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 90, Section 34, Clause 2A, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a contract with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Public Works and to authorize the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, to borrow in anticipation of 100% reimbursement of said amounts.
You've heard the motion made and seconded under Article 4. Is there any discussion? Michael.
Mike Cahill, North Street. Could someone indicate what the balance is of the Chapter 90 account at this point, and anticipating some monies coming in from the state, Chapter 90 monies, what are our plans for use of those monies going forward?
I'll take it.
Go ahead.
Phil, do you have that?
As you know, the state budget's not settled yet, but Chapter 90 for the town, as far as the legislative vote went, was about $380,000. The plans for that for fiscal year 13 include a Main Street from number 467 to the Whately line, Prospect Street, the bridge to the Legion, Straits Road, Depot Road south 700 feet, Plain Road, Circle Drive to where it becomes dirt, and Circle Drive itself. That's the plan for the current year. If we get a lower amount, it'll come off the bottom, starting with Circle Drive coming back up. I don't have the balance right here as to where it stands. We typically expend everything we have year to year. It's never enough. Do you have, DPW, do you have the?
Any further discussion?
So the monies will be used primarily on roads and for nothing else?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. If someone has any trouble, if anybody up here isn't loud enough, please just raise your hand a little bit. I won't have you come up and talk too quickly.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
move to take up Article 5.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 5 as in your handout.
I move the town vote to rescind the following unissued balances. Let's see, the Bridge Street Sewer Project, the unused balance was $350,300. The unused balance on the Bridge Street reconstruction project was $1,400,000. The Smith Academy heat and electrical balance is $130,000. The DPW mower was $10,000. To demolish the School Street School was $25,000, and the West Street water line was $20,000.
You've heard the motion made and seconded under Article 5. Is there any discussion? Michael?
How much of this money is real money?
None.
Okay.
Absolutely
None
none.
of it's been raised and appropriated at this point. Okay, so this is
Right.
just a,
Rescission.
This
this
is
is just a
right.
rescind, an authorization
Yes.
to, okay.
Boy, I wish I had an easy button. No, that's fine. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Boyle.
I move we take up Article 6.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 6 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Boyle.
I move the town enact the following bylaw. Any change otherwise provided for under Chapter 369 of the Acts of 2012, including, without limitation, changes with regard to medical marijuana treatment centers and dispensary agents, shall be deferred as follows and until June 30th, 2014. There shall be created a 5-person study committee. Number one, a selectman chosen by the Board of Selectmen. 2, a member of the Board of Health chosen by the Board of Health. 3, a licensed healthcare professional, MD or RN, chosen by the Selectmen and members of the Board of Health. 4, a police officer chosen by the Chief of Police. And 5, the zoning enforcement officer, who's also a building inspector. The committee shall study and make recommendations as to bylaws, rules, regulations, local, state, and federal. Second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded under Article 6. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now, you guys do know this used to be a tobacco town.
Not marijuana.
I had to say that.
We'll tax it.
Okay, who's up? Ed?
Okay, Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Leschko.
I move we take up Article 7.
The motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 7 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Leschko.
I move the town vote to amend the zoning map of the Town of Hatfield by changing the front portion of map 211, lot 30-0 at 123 North Hatfield Road from the current rural residential RR and including it in the light industrial LI zoning district, which is the present zoning district for all the property except the front portions on North Hatfield Road, and to amend zoning bylaw, Section 2.2, by inserting, after May 10, 2011, warrant Article 7, the following: amended by and at the annual town meeting, May 14, 2013, warrant Article number 7.
You've heard the article, you've heard Article 7, you've heard the motion for Article 7 and seconded. Is there any discussion? Michael?
Yeah, is this coming at the initiation of the planning board, or is this coming from the landowner or landowners themselves? I know that the process is such that a zoning change has got to come from the planning board, but I'm just wondering who initiated this?
I can answer that. I'm Bob Bartlett. I'm the chairman of the planning board. I don't think I need the microphone.
Got you, Bob.
This article was initiated at the request of the current landowner. This is the former redhead property. It's now owned by National Landscaping. And the front portion, or the frontage along North Hatfield Road, is zoned rural residential, and the rear, where the houses and the barns are, is zoned light industrial. And technically, they can't cross a rural residential zone with their vehicles or driveway to get to the light industrial zone. So it's really just to clean up the frontage and make the zoning consistent with the light industrial zone. And again, it's at the request of the landowner.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, this is a 2/3 vote, so all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Boyle.
I move we take up Article 8.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 8 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Boyle.
I move the town vote to amend the zoning bylaws by deleting entirely the present version of that portion of the bylaws entitled 6.6 Mixed-Use Development, substituting therefore the revised version also entitled 6.6 Mixed-Use Development, and amending the table of dimensional and density regulations in section 4.3, and by amending the current zoning map with the addition of a mixed-use development overlay district map, all on file with the Office of the Town Clerk.
The motion's been made and seconded under Article 8. Is there any discussion? Michael?
Yeah, could the planning board explain the reasons for their recommending this revision?
Paul Dostal is going to come up from the planning board.
Paul Dostal, Planning Board member. This was an article that we proposed along with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. Back in January, the Planning Commission, under the guise of Mr. Curtis, which I can like to introduce him to answer any specific questions, but we wanted to take a look at the mixed-use areas that we had in the town of Hatfield and help have some update our zoning bylaws to create proper planning, wise planning in accordance with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission's movement, planning for the 21st century and beyond. This article bylaw was written with the planning board and the Pioneer Valley Planning Commissions. The town received the grant, so it was at no cost to the town other than the planning board's time. Mr. Curtis, would you like to expand on this in any way, shape, or form?
Or at this point, Michael, does that answer your question? Are you?
Well, I was going to ask a follow-up question.
Very good. Okay.
I think Paul will,
Okay.
what are the changes and why are we affecting those changes? Are you recommending those changes?
The goal of this bylaw is to promote economic development and well-planned growth. We're trying to promote
Could you
growth.
talk a little louder?
Sure. Trying to promote growth in a compact, pedestrian-friendly way in a mixed-use layout that's consistent with the town's existing village centers and their master plan. The idea is to replicate a sort of traditional New England village type of format with Main Street-style districts with offices and apartments on the second floor of buildings and shops and restaurants on the first floor. So this is an overlay district. It doesn't create any new restrictions on development, but just new opportunities for economic development. And it's focused on the four existing village districts in town: Hatfield Center, West Hatfield, North Hatfield, and the Hatfield Mills area. And the bylaw would allow mixed-use development only by special permit with site plan approval from the planning board. There are a set of performance standards that are established to protect the town and neighboring uses to make sure that development's done in a high-quality format. So this is really an upgrade of the language of the existing bylaw and provides really more detail and better control for the town.
Okay.
Ideas like this are,
Wait a minute. When people come up, especially for new people in town, to get to know everybody,
Larry Grossman on King Street.
and I just ask people to say your name and the street, not your address number, but just so people know what part of town you might be coming from.
This idea that Chris has talked about is, it's gone through some lingo over the last 10 years of this planning of density, of this idea of getting a New England village in Hatfield. And we talked about this even 10 years ago or 8 years ago when we did the master plan. I think that there's some value in it in areas like Main Street by the store, maybe on West Hatfield, but some of this build-out in the residential areas that you mentioned and the bylaw, like School and Prospect, and I don't know what areas of North Hatfield he was talking about, the bylaw calls for. These are sometimes means just to get a lot more housing in a dense, a lesser area. They have much more dense housing, and it changes the character a lot more than just this cute little image of downtown Stockbridge or something with stores on the first floor and residential on the second, and people are walking all around. We're much more spread out than that, and I'd have some concerns about having this overlay on all those 4 areas. And I wonder if it should have been refined down to more specific commercial/residential areas rather than an area like School and Prospect, which is really 100% residential right now. So I don't know if the planning board thought about different areas or how they arrived at these 4 areas, but maybe it should be thought about more before we add. With this bylaw, I don't know if they've done a projection of the number of residents, that the possibility of adding quite a few more housing units in Hatfield with the school, kids, and all the other associated costs.
Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of Article 8, this is a 2/3 vote, so it's got to be either a strong vote or we have to do a count. All those in favor of Article 8 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. All right, Louise feels more comfortable, we'll do a count, so let's do that. The Attorney General requires a count, so let's do it. Let's be safe. Sure. Do you want to do it one more time by voice vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Let's do a count. All those in favor, please stand up. This is democracy. It's great. And we have our 2 counters. You're going to count this side. And Paul, did you count up here?
Louise.
And Paul, you give it to Edwina. She's got my count. She has my count. Paul, give her the...
What's the count, Paul?
Okay.
47? Yes?
Okay, all those opposed, please stand. If you're a town member, you really do have to get down to the floor here, because we have other people that visit and they sit up in the stands and they can't always tell if they're part of the count or not. I apologize for that, but... Thank you. Okay, democracy rules. 94 voted yes, 68 voted no, so the motion fails.
Oh,
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I move to take up Article 9.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 9 as in your warrant.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I move the town vote to amend the zoning bylaws by adopting the proposed town meeting warrant article referred to as Solar Energy Zoning Bylaws as on file with the Office of the Town Clerk, specifically amending the Hatfield zoning bylaws, Section 5.5.7, subsection A, medium and large solar ground mount systems, and Section 3.0, use regulations, Table 1, adding subsections 6.23, 6.24, and 6.26 to Section 6.0, accessory uses.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded under Article 9. Is there any discussion? In the back.
Good evening. Bill Mazick, Old Stage Road. A lot of these things, you got sections, this, that, numbers and everything. They don't mean nothing to me, and I don't think they mean anything to anybody else. Can you explain why the changes and what the changes are going to result in?
Well, I will say that if they do, they're going to be brief, because that's what I said early in the evening. There's been countless meetings at Town Hall through the year, and if we sat here to debate every single issue as they did in all their smaller meetings, we would be here for days. I don't think any of us want to be like Amherst and come for 10 nights in a row. So again, it's meant as no disrespect, but if somebody can elaborate a little bit, that would probably be helpful. Planning board?
Paul Dostal, Planning Board member, Main Street. A proposed article is to see if the town would adopt the solar energy bylaw. There is no bylaw on our town books regarding solar energy projects, especially large-scale solar projects. Many towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have no laws, although we are trying to get something on the books to plan for growth of solar, which is a renewable energy. There have been numerous meetings posted on our town website, posted in the Daily Hampshire Gazette, posted in the town hall. We've had numerous public meetings regarding a solar bylaw for the town of Hatfield.
I've even seen you on YouTube.
Thank you. Does that answer the question?
Is there any other discussion? Michael?
I just want to make sure that I understand this correctly. Under the proposed bylaw, a large ground mount solar generating system would be permitted in residential, outlying residential, town center, and town center business areas by special permit and site plan approval of the planning committee. So what this does is that it permits this kind of facility in these areas such zoned and gives the authority to permit that facility to the planning board. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Paul, if you'd like Bob to weigh in on it as well, we can bring the mic over to him. It's more than easy to do. We have a mic we can bring over to you.
This bylaw was put together by the Energy Committee along with input from a group of citizens. They got together and met several times. The planning board wasn't there. And they submitted this, they, meaning the Energy Committee, submitted this article to us. And the SPA under RR, ORTC, and TCB is would require a special permit with site plan review. The planning board made that amendment at the public hearing we held, I think it was February 20th. Originally, this came to us with an SPR, which is just site plan review, which would allow it by right, and the planning board would just take a look at the way it's laid out on the site. Special permit allows for the planning board to either deny it if they don't feel that it belongs where it's proposed, or would allow us to condition the project by either making it smaller, increasing the setbacks, requiring different screening. There's all sorts of conditions we could put on it. So to answer the question, it's not allowed by right, it's allowed after a review through the special permit process by the planning board, at which we would have a public hearing and the public would be invited to express their opinion. It's like a mini town meeting. Many times we base our vote on the input from the neighbors, especially the neighbors, because whatever project it is, whether it's a mother-in-law apartment or a sign hanging outside or a large-scale solar project, those things have a direct effect on the people in the neighborhood, the abutters and abutters to abutters. So we value their opinion because it's their property being affected. So it's not allowed by right, it's allowed with a special permit. And again, the special permit process allows us to condition things, to deny it, and that's the best way to handle it, because there are places where it belongs, where it could be constructed without having an effect on residential properties.
Thank you. Any other, Michael?
Thank you, Bob, because the reason I asked that question is because I thought it would be valuable for the people to hear Bob's explanation. My second question is, what, if any, kind of impact or bearing will this bylaw have, or does this bylaw have, on the Citizens Energy project proposed for Chestnut Street?
None.
None. That project is permitted. We can't pass laws in for years.
Okay. In the back here.
John Zakowski, Gore Avenue. I'd like to know if the passage of this article will allow the development of large-scale ground solar arrays in rural residential areas, and also allow the, in effect, permit the lowering of property values on residents' homes in those areas.
Paul?
Again, under the table of use, 6.26 large ground mount solar generating system is allowed in all the areas with a special permit and a site plan review. As far as property values, we have no idea. We have no idea if a solar project affects or doesn't affect property values. But again, a project, a large-scale project, would go before the planning board, and the planning board has the right to approve it, deny it, put special conditions on it. There are certain areas that are in the town of Hatfield that are rural residential, that are zone rural residential, yet there's no houses anywhere around them.
Okay. How about the guy right in front of you for a second?
Mark Gillette, Elm Street. Could someone answer the question, if we don't pass some bylaw tonight regarding large-scale solar, what would be allowed in town for large-scale solar if we don't pass anything?
Without the law, there is no law. The state says we cannot unduly regulate it. Those are exact words. We don't have any regulation now. It's like I-91 with other people.
Now, maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea. Get to work faster.
Maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Okay, Darrell?
Darrell Williams, Depot Road, also on the Energy Committee. Sorry.
All right. No, we
Obviously
can,
too close
no,
to
you're
this
fine,
thing.
you're fine.
I'll just read, answering the question as far as we know from the Energy Committee. Right now, it's Mass State Law, Chapter 40A, Section 3, Paragraph 9, that governs us. So if no bylaw passes, we are subject to the state law. And I'll just read in part this, and I'm quoting from this: "No zoning ordinance or bylaw shall prohibit or unreasonably regulate the installation of solar energy systems or the building of structures that facilitate the collection of solar energy, except where necessary to protect the public health, safety, or welfare."
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. In the back.
As far as the welfare of the community goes, the welfare includes the value of the homes that people have invested in for 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years. What we're being asked right now is to vote on something that this gentleman here, Mr. Dostal, said we don't know when he was asked a question. We don't know what the impact is going to be. Well, if I'm a teenager and I'm going to go up the road at 75 miles an hour, I don't know what the impact is going to be. I don't know if I'm going to kill myself. I don't know if I'm going to kill somebody else, wreck the car, dad's going to boot me in the can later. We can operate under a moratorium and move forward. We don't have to pass this tonight. We don't have to screw our neighbors
You can just
who
face up
paid
here.
their
Over here.
taxes for years and years and years, and who are very, very good people. This is a very divisive issue, and the development of this article has been a very divisive issue. It hasn't been a clean process. I've been a witness to a good portion of it. And when it comes down to name calling and using the town's letterhead and a little bullying, then it's getting a little raw. I'd like to ask the rest of the voters in town that they vote this down for now, for the groups to come together, develop the proper plan for this community. Because if we're going to move ahead and decide that we can put a large-scale, ground-mounted solar array in residential or rural residential areas, all we're doing is we're eating ourselves. It's a cancer. It's money.
Okay.
It's all about money.
Okay.
Thank you.
Darrell?
Darrell Williams again. I just want to reiterate the fact that if we do not vote a bylaw through tonight, we will continue to be subject to the Massachusetts state law. And so large or medium ground mount units or facilities could go into the town. So we think it's important that a bylaw be passed.
Okay. New face, Stan?
My name is Stan Pitchko. I live on Prospect Street in Hatfield. And through the many months of this whole process, I have been one of the ones that has been integral in working with the Energy Committee at various capacities. Is it the perfect bylaw? Probably not. Is it the best? No. Is it the worst? No. But we do need to walk away here tonight with a bylaw. Massachusetts general law, as Darrell had said, is very open, very broad, very loose to interpretation. What we've put together collaboratively enables us to walk away with something in place that affords community members, residents, neighbors, folks from all over town to weigh in and talk about what's happening, whether it be at the other end of town, whether it be in their own neighborhood, whether it be in their own backyard. I'm part of a small consortium that has a solar facility going in their backyard, and Once I realized that this was happening, I decided to step up and work with the various members of the community to develop something that we could put on the table tonight that enables us to look at what we're doing in a thoughtful, respectful manner throughout the town. If we had nothing and we vote this down, every open space, and I mean every open space in town, becomes susceptible to solar panels. And some think they're beautiful, some think they're not so beautiful. But I think what we're putting before the town tonight at least enables us to have an opportunity to discuss it as a community.
Well
Thank
put.
you.
When this does go to a vote, this is going to be a 2/3 vote again, so just be aware of that. I'll let Ed have a comment here.
I just want to put this into perspective a little bit. If it's not voted, that means a solar farm can go 15 feet off of your property line with no buffers, the way it is right now. With the bylaw, at least it's special permit approved, the planning board can set restrictions as far as setback and that kind of stuff. Thank you.
So I'd like to say that again, with 2/3 vote, I might need our counters, but we'll give this a try here. All those in favor of Article 8, Article 9, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. I didn't do that right? Can we do it again? I got to do a count? All right, according to Louise and the Attorney General, we have to do a count, so let's do it. Counters, please. All those in favor, please stand. It's great exercise anyway. I know, I do. I love her dearly. But this is what I was telling Lydia today. One group to the other, and it's so well appreciated. Where's Lydia? That's great. Okay, all those opposed, please stand. If there's, you got two down there, so. These are the nays, George. While they're doing their counting, almost 13 years ago when I started doing this, the first year I thought I'd be very, very more modern and just go with the yeses and nos. And after the first vote, I realized my mistake. With an aye and a nay, it's the same audible sound to the person trying to get a judgment. When you say yes and no, the tones are very different. By the second vote, I quickly went back to aye and nay. So our forefathers weren't so bad after all. Okay, that's 172 yeses and 4 noes. Motion carries. Article 10 is submitted by petition by a private citizen. Does anyone make a motion or second to this?
Excuse me.
Excuse me, what? Article 10?
No, it's,
This is Article 10.
oh, okay. Got it.
Okay. There's no Okay.
I'll represent the group that put this petition forward. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to convey control and management of the public education and government PEG access television and media HCTV from the Board of Selectmen to an independent elected nonprofit public media organization. The public media organization shall be made up of 3 directors elected annually by townspeople on or before June 30th each year, beginning 2013 at a public meeting held at Town Hall or other public place. A 2-week notice of said meeting shall be publicly posted at Town Hall, HCTV, and town webpage. The director shall oversee policy, programming, staff, and budget as set forth in the PEG agreement with the town's cable provider and state law. Hatfield shall provide the public media organization operational housing, utilities, current equipment, and inventory, including all funds allotted to PEG media access by the town annual budget and the town's cable provider. The directors shall conduct public media organization meetings under the state open meeting law.
Okay, Chris has made a motion. Is there's a second, or you make a second? Okay. Is there any discussion? Why don't you come on up? Brian. No, wait, Brian is going to come up. I called on Brian first.
Hi, my name's Brian Moriarty. I live on Maple Street, and I have a bit of a concern about taking the responsibility of town contracts away from the selectmen. As I understand it now, we have a cable advisory committee who works with the townspeople and Comcast, and they advise the selectmen as far as processes and programming and things like that. And I guess I don't understand the benefit of taking it to a completely separate group that has no responsibility, if you will, to report to the selectmen. That's one concern. The other concern is that we would have a meeting hastily called 2 weeks before a vote without going to the polls with a true election where people can run for an office, give their backgrounds, debate the information in advance. And thirdly, this group looks like they want to have the money at their disposal to do what they want with programming-wise, but still expect the town to pay for any sort of costs associated with cable TV. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Chris?
I have a statement here. From September 2011 to June 12, a newly appointed 5-member cable committee worked to revitalize the local access Channel 15 programming and update the studio. At the same time, they did 3 years' work in 7 months to get a new cable license agreement with Comcast. The committee put out a townwide survey, conducted public hearings, met with school, met with public media organizations, and so on. We changed the programming based on that survey. We updated, we did all kinds of things like old movies, TV shows, old TV, child programs, and so on. Working with FCAT, a multi-town cooperative based in Deerfield, we got legal advice, support to add a second and possibly third channel, and a plan to offer our students and interested folks in the community training and media in media production. In May, the committee put together a business plan to include major equipment upgrades, internet on-demand programming, a staff of 2 part-time station managers. The plan called for the cable committee to provide management of the budget and the TV studio programming and staff, and to continue to be accountable to you, the viewers. We also had developed a very good license agreement with Comcast that now yields an average of $69,000 per year over the next 10 years, which will make HCTV totally self-funded and no longer needing taxpayer support. Then, without prior discussion or notice, on June 12th, Selectmen voted to hand over all control of your public access TV to their town administrator, who would oversee the programming, the budget, and staff with no input or guidance from the cable committee.
Chris, I see you have a lot of is this?
I'll try to get through it. Okay. Today, the station is run by a gentleman who lives in Lanesboro, Mass. He's not a Comcast subscriber, nor does he.
Chris, you're getting farther off. The issue is about considering your proposal here, and now you're getting into the individuals and the details.
Well, okay, to answer the question simply, our cable access is being run by one individual. He's not accountable to you. He doesn't have to answer your questions. He controls the money. And we no longer have the possibility of a second channel or a third channel, things that we were going to work on. We were going to cooperate with FCAT out of Deerfield. So basically, let me just say this. The existence of a free and independent, uncensored public media is a vital part of democratic government. But that vital purpose, the freedom of speech and exchange of ideas and opinion, can be jeopardized when it's controlled by the government and not accountable to you, the citizen. Just look at North Korea. This is why Hatfield should follow the model.
Chris, can we bring it to Hatfield, please?
Sure.
North Korea's off the planet.
Okay.
I'm sorry I don't mean to be rude or disrespectful, but can you please bring it to the issue?
Okay, so essentially, we, the subscribers, should have the voice to manage the station. And the Cable Access Committee had done a lot of work. We had good things happening here.
Okay.
And it was taken away. That's all.
Does anyone else have something to add? Please do.
Just to maybe concisely say this, first of all, Brian was absolutely right that, that he wants some oversight of the money, that the selectmen certainly have it right now. But we should bear in mind that we have many departments that the selectmen have nothing to do with, including the clerk, the treasurer, the assessors, and the planning board are the obvious ones. So it's not that bad that the selectmen don't have another area of responsibility. And I will say that I didn't know much about this article before I just read it and heard these two gentlemen talk. It's not unusual for a cable access TV to be run by an entity like this public media organization. This is not some radical idea. And it does then focus on opening the media to everybody without any kind of political or agenda driven. It's like public TV versus cable TV. I mean, so this is not the craziest idea that just came out, and I was glad to see it. I wish there was maybe more time for discussion of how this might work for Hatfield, how would it benefit Hatfield, or are there downsides to it? But I think on the face of it, I would support this article.
Okay, and this one gentleman right here had a comment over here. Yep, and Larry, I'll call on you one. And
thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I like the way the cable system's set up in town right now.
Could you just give your name and the street you live
in?
in?
My name is Dave Duso. I live on Bridge Street.
Thank you very much.
I like the way that the cable's set up and run now. We elect the selectmen. They select someone to run it. I think that's patriotic.
Good enough. Larry?
Larry Williams, Main Street. I have two questions. Number
Can you
one,
talk a little louder, Larry?
I have two questions. Number one, is this even legal for the town to create this elected board?
Okay.
Because
and
I'm under the impression that it's not even legal from the state's attorney's office.
All right, and question?
And my second question is, why are we circumventing the election process? Because the way this states, the election happens 2 weeks from whenever the board announces they're going to have it before June 30th. Why would we not have it at the town election like all the other elections?
Okay. Anybody want to comment? Yep, Ms. Mike. Check it.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to have our town attorney answer that question as far as the legal aspect.
to accomplish
Got to get a little closer.
to accomplish what people want to accomplish or the proponent wants to accomplish would, in my opinion, require a special act of the state legislature, just as creation of a DPW a couple of years ago required that. So I don't think it can be done.
Okay, can we move the question? Michael, one more thing, Michael.
Real quick. I've must admit, I've studied this and thought about this petition for quite some time, and actually having been involved with HCTV for quite a while, I've seen it in operation. I'm involved in it, and I'm utilizing its resources. My sense is that this petition is a little bit, it's coming from a sense of overreaction and perhaps even some disgruntlement over what's transpired over the last 18 months or so within the town about cable TV. What I'd like to do, though, is suggest something. I've seen Paul, and Paul, thank you for all of the hard work that you've put into trying to manage and oversee the operation of this cable access function in the community, mostly on your own. But what I'd like to see is the selectmen again try to reinstate the Cable Advisory Committee. There is no Cable Advisory Committee at this point, and there really should be one. My suggestion would be that you try to reinstate that with some interested, talented individuals and include Paul Boudreau, the town administrator, as one member of that committee so that there's a link to the board at all times, and see if we can make this work a little bit more harmoniously and more effectively going forward. I think Paul is overwhelmed. He's got a whole bunch of other things on his plate, but he has taken this task on and he's done a pretty good job with it. But I think he needs some help and some advice and counsel, and I think if you can get 3 other people or 4 other people on the Cable Advisory Committee again, I think we wouldn't need to be going through this kind of option. So.
Okay, so let's move the question here.
I move the question.
All those in favor of Article 10 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion fails.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Leschko.
I move we table Article 11.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded to table Article 11. Louise, do we go for a discussion on this, or we just vote? Just the vote. All those in favor of tabling Article 11 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion's tabled.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I move to take up Article 12.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 12 as written in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I move the town vote to appropriate $15,000 for security upgrades for the Hatfield Public Schools and to meet said appropriations by a transfer from free cash.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded for Article 12. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Boyle.
I move we take up Article 13.
The motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 13 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Boyle.
I move the town vote to appropriate $60,000 to upgrade and rehab wastewater treatment plant and pump stations and to fund said appropriation by a transfer from free cash.
Motion's been made and seconded under Article 13. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Mr. Leschko.
I move we take up Article 14.
The motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 14 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Leschko.
I move that the town vote to appropriate $193,000 for renovations on the town hall garage and to meet said appropriation by transfer from free cash.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded under Article 14. Is there any discussion? Let's try George in the back here.
It's where the town hall garage used to be. It's a new building. George, you know the one where you built the ambulance building there? The rest of that's what we consider the town garage. Don't ask me why. That's correct.
Remember the one that fell down in the storm?
Well, the first part is going to be changed into a, I don't know if you've seen the layout over here in the back, but basically what they want is a meeting room for fire, police, ambulance, where the ambulance bay is right now. So that's going to be renovated. They're going to add a handicap bathroom off one side, and then the new part will be where the double doors are. It's already pretty much fixtured up as far as the floor, the plumbing, the rough plumbing is in, and all we got to do is, we're going to have to buy the fixtures and partition that off, insulate, heat, air condition, and the prices rise right up pretty quick.
And that's for the police department.
And that is also it'll be housing the ambulance, the fire department, the police department, offices. It'll also be used for emergencies during storms or natural disasters of any type. To me, it's a pretty cheap option at this time. That, as far as the building that it exists in now, right, but what we want to do, right now, after we tore down the School Street School, that building was used by both the police and fire at one time for their training rooms and whatever. Then, obviously, the building's gone. They really have no place to train. There's really no room in the town hall for them. So this one area will be used for training where the ambulance bay is right now. That will be shared by all three departments. And then the offices will be within that building for the fire and ambulance. And then the police department will have their own area where the double doors are installed now on the newest section of the building. They require lockup, which would include safes for their weapons, their ammunition, evidence, everything else, so that would make a good spot for that. Me too.
All right. Is there any other discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying, oh, in the back? All right.
Betty Snow, Elm Street. My question is as we are, if we approve all of these articles, how are we going to pay for it? How much free money do you think is available? And should we be considering what would be the top priority, second priority, third priority?
Well, one of the things I'll point out here is that on each, what I always ask for as moderator, on each article that has to do with money, that I have always asked that the Finance Committee weigh in on it, whether recommended or not recommended. When they don't recommend something, then it's really a trigger for you people to say, why not? And maybe they'll tell you because we just can't afford it. I will say that this Finance Committee has been absolutely tremendous in the last at least 8 years of a very bad recession. And we're still here and we're doing pretty good. So if they could, Sean could probably give you an answer on that.
Hello? Got it? Okay.
This is Mike.
It's on? Okay. The free cash right now available is $446,433. There's a list of projects here which total $443,000, leaving $3,433. So all the projects go through a process before they wind up here, including the Capital Planning Improvement Committee. And Fran here sits on that for the Finance Committee, and there are other members. Board of Selectmen have a member, and other folks in town. So all the projects are sort of vetted there, any capital purchases that we make. And so this would spend basically all the free cash at this point. But, you know, some of these things are normally the type of things that we would do with borrowing or with debt exclusions, and we're not doing borrowing or debt exclusions for any of these things, so.
Thank you. In the back?
Maybe I can just answer the girl's question very easily. You do another proposition override, and your taxes go up again next year, so there's no problem.
Well, this is not an override question, so. Okay. Correct. One more, right over there. I'm going to ask you each, I know I gave a certain couple people of leeway, but that was a reasonable accommodation for reasons that are private.
Sean Robinson, Depot Road. I'm just not familiar with the town garage, and someone mentioned it was relatively new. I was wondering what year it was built.
Well, the newest section was built last year.
Okay, and so really my issue is this project taken into context the overall needs of town hall, the other town departments, and really looking at the full picture versus just spending $200,000. For example, serving on the Council of Aging, I know there's space improvements that are needed there. And how is that prioritized, and is it taken in the full context of what needs to be done? Thanks.
And I'm going to remember your name for Capital Planning Committee. No, really, that's great. We need more younger people in our town to get up and get involved, and it's great, so thank you very much. Okay.
I'd just like to I'd like to comment. This building was the one that fell down in the storm a couple years ago during those heavy snowstorms, and the insurance paid to put up the shell of that building, and that's where the original, the newest part of the building is made. Just up to date a couple of years ago, last year. So any monies, it did not come from the town to construct that part of the building. It came from insurance, from the town's insurance fund.
Let me try and hit your question more directly. The emergency services activities, and I salute every one of them for the work they do for little or no compensation in town, have for some years been seeking an emergency service complex. And that was costed out, actually they had it costed out about a year or so ago, and it was over $5 million. We're not prepared in this community to spend that kind of money right now. With the construction of this new facility behind Town Hall, we saw an opportunity to provide a co-located site for all our emergency services, ambulance, fire, and police. One of the things they desperately needed was a training area, and we're building into this facility a training area that all emergency services folks can use, as well as can be made available to others. We're providing them offices that are appropriate for their use. If you know where current fire chief sits in the basement, it's the old coat room. The police chief sits in the old girls' locker room, showers in Town Hall. So it's a significant upgrade in terms of the facilities for these hardworking folks. It also will provide the town something we really need, a common area when there are disasters or emergencies that our emergency management folks need to deal with. It will provide a common area in terms of a site where we can pre-position those kinds of response items that they need in terms of communication, documentation, a common meeting area. So it's an emergency response site as well. Built into this is backup power on the gas, so if power goes out, they have power. It's also wireless, built in. And just before someone asked, this is not in the 100-year floodplain. It's above, we just had it surveyed. It's between the 100 and 500-year floodplain. So what we attempted to do is take advantage of an opportunity, perhaps not the best if we had a cold start and the $5 million to solve their issues, but to take advantage of an opportunity with this new facility to solve a long-standing need for our emergency services folks.
Okay, while the clock's going, I'd like to move the article. All those in favor of Article 14 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Article passes.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I move to take up Article 15.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 15 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I move the town vote to appropriate $175,000 for renovations on Hatfield Memorial Town Hall, including but not limited to office and meeting space and handicapped accessible bathrooms, and to meet said further appropriation by a transfer from free cash.
You've heard the motion made and seconded under Article 15. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Boyle.
I move we take up, I move to table Article 16.
Motion's been made and seconded to table Article 16. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Passes.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Leschko.
I move we table Article 17.
Motion's been made and seconded to table Article 17. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I move to take up Article 18.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 18 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I move the town vote to transfer and appropriate $41,125.94 from overlay surplus to fund a new roof for the Highway Department garage.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded under Article 18. Is there any discussion? Are those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Boyle.
I move we take up Article 19.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 19 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Boyle.
I move the town vote to transfer and appropriate $50,000 from the sale of timber to fund the installation of a water mixing system for the Water Department water tank.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded under Article 19. Is there any discussion? Sure.
Well,
Aye.
I'll do it. We're talking about a water tank and a mixing system for that tank, and there's really three things that are involved here. One, this mixing system is to reduce the buildup of certain regulated chemicals that have to be reported on. Second, it affects the quality of taste and odor of our water supply. And third, during the winter, when there's freezing, there's scouring that occurs inside the water tank, and this helps prevent the scouring and deterioration of the overall tank. That's what it's about.
Michael?
Jeff, there's a cost benefit here to spending this money. We have spent money over the years, I assume, to help descour that tank and deal with some of the challenges that we're having there. So can you kind of talk about the costs that we've spent to maintain this tank without this mixing system, and how quickly we're going to actually see some payback on this $50,000?
I can't talk about the history of the sale of the item. Phil, do you have?
The tank, this is the inside of the tank. We appropriated money last year to recoat the outside of that tank. It's a 500,000 gallon water tank, and we really can't run the town just from the wells without that tank supply. The cost has been very minimal to repairs inside that tank. But last year during the inspection that we had, the scuba divers went down in there and said that this is their recommendation from the inspection from a qualified company to do that. They think that, you know, with the movement in the water, it's like an aerator in that water system to keep that water moving constantly. It doesn't happen during the filling and emptying of the tank on a normal day, so it's very helpful as far as the water quality and the scouring of that ice moving up and down inside that tank, because the coating can and eventually will peel off inside that, and you'll have to drain the tank and recoat it. So when that's going to happen, I couldn't tell you, but if there's enough freezing going on and movement of that water, it could happen.
Any other discussion?
Betty Snow, Elm Street. I just need a point of clarification. When I was asking you earlier about the cost, if we add all these things up, it's like over 800K, and there's 446 in free money, and if you said there's not going to be a debt exclusion or borrowing, I'm thinking that the only other thing left would be an increase in real estate taxes. Is that true or not?
Coming from the sale of timber.
But in general, all this money, is that going to, in order to pay for all these, will there be an increase in real estate taxes?
So if we weren't taking the money from the sale of timber, it would be coming from your real estate taxes to do this project. But fortunately, what we did over the years, when we sell off timber, every year or every few years, we go through the mountain areas and we weed out the big timber, we sell it, and that money gets put into a pool of money, and then if we need it for certain things, we can go and take it from there and to pay for this, and this is one of those situations. So it's not coming from your taxes. It would be, if we didn't use it here, it would sit in this timber account, and we could use it for other things, or it could revert back to free cash.
It actually is limited in what it can be used for. There's limits to what the sale of timber account can be used for. Mostly having to do with water.
It's limited to the water department, period.
What you're asking is, once you total up everything that is voted on this year, this meeting, I believe it will be less than 1% of an increase in your tax. That's if everything on this warrant is voted in. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
But this item has no impact on that.
Thank you for your perseverance. Okay. All those in favor of Article 19 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Leschko.
I move we take up Article 20.
The motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 20 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Leschko.
I move that the town vote to establish under Chapter 40, Section 13D, a reserve fund for compensated absences and to designate the Board of Selectmen as the authority to approve payments.
Second.
You've heard the motion made and seconded under Article 20. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to explain this. What this is when somebody retires or we need funding to compensate them, especially when they retire, this would take care of that, because right now it comes from the budget, and in the budget process, we hold that to what the yearly compensation is. But if an individual retires and they have, let's say, $10,000 coming to them from bought back health premium, health
Sick leave.
yeah, where leftover health and so on. This pays for that. Okay, right now it comes from the budget, and we don't. Then we're short on the budget. So this would compensate that.
Well, let me try. State law allows us to set up an account to pay otherwise balances that are due a person upon the departure. Mr. Leschko mentioned accrued leave, vacation, sick time, percentage of their sick time. And instead of having that come out of the direct operating budget, and it's already owed, it's not a matter of adding something, it's to be paid. We propose to take advantage of the law, set up this particular account so that we could put money in there over time and minimize the impact on the operating budget for that particular department.
Okay. Good.
A motion, an article just to establish that reserve fund and not to fund it at all this year? Is that correct? Or is the motion somebody going to amend this to put some money into it?
Well, we're simply establishing it right now.
Okay. And will we hire or put together some sort of a fiduciary functionality in the community that determines how much money should be in this account? If in fact we're going to start to build a reserve to meet these liabilities going forward?
Go ahead, Ed.
It's really hard to tell how much money would be put in here, because if we have nobody retiring in a year, then the account wouldn't be used. If we had one person retire in a year, it could be up to $10,000. If we had two people retired, depending on the length of time that the service that they served the town, it could be $20,000 or $30,000. So each year difference is different, and that's basically what happens here. So we really don't have a set dollar amount that goes in there, and I'm not 100% sure, but if we can run a deficit spending on this and then bring it back before town meeting the next year to compensate for what was put into this year.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure the design of it would necessarily be like to create an actuarial table that would stretch out into years immediately to try to figure out how much it would be going forward. It is a little unpredictable too, because like particularly with sick time, you really don't know how much people are going to use immediately before they retire. So sometimes people go out on a medical leave, then they retire. And so how much sick time are you going to have to buy back? It gets into, so it's just a way to smooth out bumps more than it really try to pin it, fully fund something like a retirement system.
Okay. All those in favor of Article 20 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
move to take up Article 21.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 21 is in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I move the town vote to replace a number of water meters by appropriating the sum of $20,000 apportioned as follows: $10,000 to be appropriated transferred from the Water Enterprise Fund, and $10,000 to be appropriated and transferred from the Sewer Enterprise Fund.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded under Article 21. Is there any discussion? Paul?
1,300. We have 1,300 meters we're trying to do. They cost $200 a piece, so we're looking to do 100 a year.
Okay. Any other discussion? George?
How much money do we have in each fund presently?
Which fund?
Well, there's a...
It's on your sheet.
Where is it? Yeah. If you look at the end of the budget page there, available for FY14, 53,045 for water, and 18,310 on sewer. Just to describe, I mean, we describe these as sort of reserve funds with retained earnings, but the reality is that there really is no surplus. We're looking at, we just appropriated $60,000 to upgrade the water treatment plant, $50,000 to put a mixing system in the tank, And these things will be paid back either a sale of timber account, from free cash, which comes from taxation. These things are not paid for by the water and sewer. So as has been the case, I'm sure, since the inception of the sewer plant at least, that there is a subsidy that is provided by the folks who are not on the sewer system for the folks who are on the sewer system. And if we appropriate the remaining articles here, we're going to put another $230,000 into a rotating biological contactor, which will undoubtedly be paid for out of taxation. So, I mean, while we identify these as surpluses, I think there's a debate to be had about whether there's really a surplus at all. The sewer and water systems really don't pay for themselves. They're really not enterprise funds in the sense that you would think about it that way, that it pays for all its expenses. It pays for its operating expenses, basically minus its capital, essentially.
Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of Article 21 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Boyle.
I move we take up Article 22.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 22 is in your handout.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Boyle.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $32,140 for the purpose of a 5-year lease program for a new police cruiser, a DPW track loader, a COA van, and to fund said appropriations through taxation.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded under Article 22. Is there any discussion? Michael?
I have several questions. One is, can someone speak to the need for each of these assets? Number two, is this the first of a multi-year lease for each of those assets, and what is the number of years that's involved? And number three, where do these lease payments appear in the budget?
This is a 5-year lease. The police cruiser is a 2008 Crown Vic with well over 100,000 miles, requires replacement. COA van, 2006 model, close to $100,000, requires, with work needed, requires replacement. And then DPW, the track loader, is a new piece of equipment for them, and they're looking to use it, for example, instead of the payloader when they're moving snow around and doing some other work. And it also has other multiple uses with various attachments that could be put on it. What other question? It's 5-year lease. Where does it show up? The payment should show up in the operating budget. That's where payments show up for the lease.
Mr. Moderator. So where's the police cruiser's line item for the lease of their police cruiser? Is it in the police department line item?
No, vehicles are under
it comes out
DPW.
of vehicle maintenance. That comes. All of those come out. I believe come out of vehicle maintenance, right? Yeah.
Vehicle lease.
Vehicle lease.
Which is descriptive.
Which in other words, are not centered on a council on aging, police, or all our vehicles are right through the DPW.
So it's all in the DPW vehicle lease.
That's correct.
Line item.
Right.
Okay. Even though these are expenses that are pretty much dedicated to other departments, it's being funded by, quote, the DPW's budget.
We've centralized it in DPW, that's correct. We do not have strict cost accounting here by any stretch.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, we've never, I mean, that's not unique to that. Insurance is not parcel. We don't really do that. Given that we're one town running our own school district, and it makes sense more to do it this way, where we combine things together than try to parcel out exactly who's getting what. I mean, because we also don't do things like if the DPW takes the track loader over to the school to do something, we don't send the school a bill necessarily for it either. So.
Okay, George, you had a question.
This is in addition to, I'm sorry.
That is going to be used to our sidewalk snow blowing unit that we've had for years and years. is basically down and out. The hydraulic system on it is gone, and it's going to cost a fortune to repair. So this track machine can be used with a bucket or a snowblower unit. I don't, you know.
Okay. Let's move this. All those in favor of Article 22 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Leschko.
I move we take up Article 23.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 23 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Leschko.
I move that the town vote to appropriate $230,000 to rebuild the third rotating biological contactor and to fund said appropriation through borrowing.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded under Article 23. Is there any discussion? Michael?
The warrant says replace. Did you mean replace or rebuild? You said rebuild, Ed.
Replace.
No, it's replaced.
This is replaced. I said rebuilt, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It's replace.
Okay. And then the
That's, just so everybody knows, that one is one of the last original ones when the plant was built in 1980 or 79.
Right. So this is the third of three.
Yes.
This is the
Okay.
third of three.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, and this is a two-thirds vote.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. We didn't have to do a count. 24.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I'd like to move on Article 24.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to take up Article 24 is in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I move in the terms of the article.
Second.
You have the handout and the motion of Article 24 in your hand. Is there any discussion on this? Michael? Why, sure.
Bob Wagner, Linseed Road. So this is a correction to the budget that we adopted last year because we have to base our budget, as we will in Article 25, on estimates of how much the state will provide us in a match. And we usually err on estimating on the low side, usually around 25 to 30%. So last year we estimated that we would receive $26,711 from the state. We actually got $101,000, so we needed to adjust our budget to reflect the fact that we got significantly more money from the state than they had anticipated giving us at this time last year. So that's what, this is a corrective because we made more money than we thought we would. Or rather got more money than we thought we would.
Okay, is there any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of Article 24 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Boyle.
I move we take up Article 25.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to take up Article 25 is in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Boyle.
I move in terms of the article.
You have the motion in your hand on Article 25. Is there any discussion? Michael?
Okay, so as we've done in the past, we are budgeting for fiscal year 14 on estimated revenues, both of what we would raise locally, but also then what we would get for the state match. And I apologize to everyone that we'll do this again next year. But the State Department of Revenue issues usually about a month ago what they anticipate to be the state match from the CPA Trust Fund. Again, they're in the 25% range, so we're estimating a 25% match from the state. In all likelihood, it'll be closer to 85 to 88%, but we can't count on that right now. So this budget is for fiscal year 14 on what we think we will have both from local revenue as well as from the state match.
Thank you. And Bob, you're not wasting anybody's time. I think we appreciate knowing every year a little report from you guys, so thank you. Okay, all those in favor of Article 25 signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Leschko.
I move we take up Article 26.
Motion has been made and seconded to take up Article 26 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Leschko.
I move that the town vote to appropriate and transfer from the Community Preservation Budgeted Reserve Account the sum of up to $19,290 to support the second year of the inventory, management, and preservation project to preserve rehabilitate, restore the Hatfield Historical Museum collection under the direction of the Hatfield Historical Society, said funds to be expended under the direction of the Community Preservation Committee.
Second.
You've heard the article, the motion made and seconded under Article 26. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
move to take up Article 27.
The motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 27 is in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Adamski.
I move in terms of the article.
Second.
You have the article and the motions in your hand. Is there any discussion? In the back?
Good evening. My name's Rich Abbott from Elm Street. I'm a member of the Open Space Committee. And on behalf of the Open Space Committee, I urge you to support this article. What these funds would do would be allow us to hire a designer to come up with a preliminary design and cost estimate for renovating Smith Academy Park next to Town Hall. Our goals in this renovation or design would be to create a space, a town common where that space would resemble more of a traditional New England town common, which would be an inviting place for the townspeople to relax and enjoy the town center. Our second goal would be to maintain and enhance the historical properties of that of the park, including maintaining the cornerstone of the original Smith Academy High School and hopefully enhancing some of the other historical attributes of the park. And finally, we'd like to create a venue for outdoor events. Currently, the town has Memorial Day commemoration. We have a luminarium. This would allow perhaps the use of a pavilion or some other similar structure, and also allow for new events to happen, such as an Arts in the Park or outdoor summer theater. Just a little background on this. In 2010, there was a town forum about the center of town, and one of the things that came out of that was the people's desire to utilize that Smith Academy Park space a little better. The Open Space Committee took that on as a project. We had discussions with the trustees of Smith Academy who own the park, and they were willing to work with us, and they would be willing to lease the park to the town for a nominal amount. They are restricted from any transfer of the park, but they will be willing to lease the park to us, with the provision that we would, one, renovate the park, two, that we would maintain the park, and three, that we would also keep the historical artifacts in the park. So with this funding, we would, if this is approved, we would seek professional services for the design. We would hold a public forum in June where townspeople could come and express their opinions or wishes of what that park or what that design would look like. And then working with the trustees, the Open Space Committee would then come up with a request for proposal for design services. And hopefully by the end of this calendar year, we would have that design and cost estimate in place. Ultimately, we would like to seek state funding for possible construction. We understand it's a very competitive process to do that. And, you know, hopefully in the future come back to town meeting, seeking approval for construction. I know one of the issues that would be need to be addressed at that time would be maintenance of the park and the willingness of the town to take on yet another property and maintain it. And so I hope you would support this article.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of Article 27 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Boyle.
I move we take up Article number 28.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to take up Article 28 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Boyle.
I move in terms of the article.
You have the motion and the article in your hand on Article 28. Is there any discussion? Bob?
Bob, get up.
Somebody going to address that?
I will.
Very good.
And also, if I may ask the board, we have Laura Baker with us from the Valley Community Development Corporation, as well as Housing Authority members who may also speak to this. So when we passed the Community Preservation Act in 2006, there are 3 areas in which money is set aside by state law to be used for projects within the community. The historic preservation category, open space category, and community housing. We have done a fair amount of projects, as everyone knows, in the open space category and in the historic preservation category, and have yet done one in the Community Housing Authority. There is a 3-page handout in the back, and what we are proposing, in light of the fact that we do not have sufficient senior housing at Capewalk that would allow adequate space for example, a senior household of 2 people to live. Those units are very small, and except for, I believe, 2 of the units, they're all 1-bedroom units. To actually provide for a mortgage assistance program that would not purchase a property for someone to live in, but would rather assist 2 income eligible households, senior households, to purchase units at a senior housing development here in town, such as the one on Elm Street, for example, but it wouldn't necessarily be limited to the one on Elm Street. And there are strict requirements that the state has established for how you go through a lottery system, how you are accepted, being income eligible as well as age eligible. And we would be providing up to $125,000 mortgage assistance for the purchase of 2 units. And there would be a deed rider attached to the properties, so that when the properties are sold, they would continue to be sold to income eligible and age eligible households, senior households, for actually in perpetuity, but I believe the deed rider is for 99 years. So we have an opportunity here to help a number of senior households in Hatfield with the initial payment, or the initial down payment, if you will, of these funds. We will not then be paying again in the future. It would be a one-time purchase on our part, or one-time assistance program on our part for these 2 units. And the units would be owned by these individuals, so they would stay on the town's tax rolls. There'd be no maintenance requirement or management requirements on the part of the town. Also in this handout is some demographic data about Hatfield seniors, and I think as you read through this, you will see that this is not a project that goes without wanting. There are definitely households in town that would be income eligible. In fact, a significant number of seniors in town would be eligible for this program if they wish to participate.
Jane, you better come up. You're waiting out of your chair.
Jane Betzold, Circle Drive. My first question is this open to Hatfield residents only?
And I just want to point out, Jane runs our Council on Aging as well. That's okay.
Not in that form here.
I know that, but you do a good job.
Okay, so this gets a little complicated. There's a program in the state called the Local Initiative Program. The state, as many of you know, has a 10% target for communities to provide affordable community housing within their communities. That 10% of the housing stock be in income eligible for affordable units. We are at 3% right now. In order for us to add to our mix of units that are considered by the state to be affordable, we would be able to make one of these 2 units available to only Hatfield residents. The second one would be opened up to a broader pool of which Hatfield residents could participate in. So much like a lottery system, if you think about the wheel with the balls in it, say 5 or 6 Hatfield residents apply or submit applications for the program, those 5 numbers would go in the cage for the first lottery The first one would be pulled out. The other 4 would go into the cage with the other folks that have applied for the program. So there's the opportunity that both units could actually go to people who currently live in Hatfield or are work in Hatfield. Those are the 2 conditions that the state has in terms of both of these units being eligible for the local initiative program, allowing us to increase our percentage of affordable units from the current 3% to getting closer to 10. It's not going to get us huge number, but it moves us in the right direction.
And my second question is, you're calling this senior housing for 55 and over. Senior citizens are 60 and over. And I kind of tend to, and I don't know what the law is on this or whatever, I believe senior housing should be 60 and over or 65 and over, as opposed to the 55 years. Does it have to be 55 years?
Actually, if I may ask if Laura can come to help
Okay.
on this question. And I'm going to actually have Laura start the answer, and then if you opportunity for me, I'll jump in.
A variety of programs define senior housing differently. We opted for 55 and over because it's a match with the Elm Street housing, which is a 55 and over development. And so
Laura, you got to talk like right into the mic. But thank you.
And so our goal was to make a broad pool of people who would be eligible to apply. And just to reiterate, we wanted to match the requirements of the Elm Street housing development, which is a 55 and over development.
All right. Let's let her get one more question in. And
I just think that I understand where they're coming from with the 55 and over, but if you're here to assist and try to help out people the senior citizens who actually need the assistance for this, I would be pushing more for the 60 or 65 rather than 55.
okay. Let's get this gentleman in the back here.
Sean Robinson, Depot Road. I mean, my largest concern is around the fact that it's only helping 2, families, I guess. That for $270,000, that seems like a lot of money just to help 2 families. I'm very much in support of making affordable housing for seniors through mortgage relief or lots of other programs. Is this the only way that we can spend either the total 270 or just the 90? Would it be possible to create some sort of mortgage relief program for struggling folks who are residents of Hatfield with the 90, or is it restricted to be used in a certain way? Thank you.
Well, first of all, we don't, as you know, actually, if people did pick up this sheet, which provides the current balances in the CPA fund, while we have a little over $110,000 in the community housing reserve as of March 31st, the numbers in your handout were from an earlier report from the town accountant. We don't have we've got a fairly sizable amount of money overall, but we don't have a ton of money to do the kind of maybe large community housing project that maybe you're referring to. We looked at a lot of mortgage assistance opportunities. We felt like going with a project where there is a project like the one on Elm Street, where you have sort of fixed units, there's maintenance fees, there's little opportunity to over-improve those units so that you get into an equity debate when the units get resold. It seemed like a perfect opportunity for us to provide the kind of a mortgage assistance that you're talking about, and given the money we have and given the price of those units, we really only have enough to afford for 2 units to start. That's not to say this will be the last time we ever do anything like this. Now, to Jane's question earlier, we can, in the course of marketing this program, if this article passes, we can actually set up preferences within the program. So, for example, in the handout, you'll notice that we've already indicated that there'll be a priority for households, senior households of 2 or more persons, because these units can handle 2 people, whereas the Capewalk units it's tougher for a couple to live there. So we've already sort of thought about, or the Housing Authority has thought about there being a priority for households of 2. We could also then build into the marketing that there be a preference for senior households that are 60 and over. It's just that this particular unit, which is a senior housing unit as approved by our planning board, is 55 and over. So it's just the nature of the units that are there.
Ron Punska, Elm Street. You know, if we really...
Talk louder, Ron.
Ron Punska, Elm Street. If we really want to help our senior citizens, we have a tremendous opportunity with the center school building sitting there deteriorating. I know it would take several $1 million, but there's certainly grant money there, and I see no reason why that funding shouldn't be used to help fund apartments, additional apartments for our senior citizens, as opposed to lending money to other people. Thank you.
And you had a question? I'll give you a second.
Stan Pitchko, Prospect Street in Hatfield. Pretty much
Stan, louder.
Sure, Stan Pitchko, Prospect Street in Hatfield. I have a question, and that is the CPA a matching fund? So through our taxation and something that a matching that comes from the state, or is that just all our money from our taxation?
Bob can answer that, I guess.
It is a matching fund, and we actually get in the neighborhood of about 88% match from the state on an annual basis. There have been a couple years where we've gotten 100% match. We've never gotten less than 85%. So over the last 5 years, our average is an 88% match from the state. John Wilkes from the Housing Authority may be able to better speak to the previous comment.
John Wilkes, 277 West Street, North Hatfield. In regard to Ronnie's question, we do have a project started with this center school, and we've applied for a DHCD grant to see if the feasibility of putting some housing in there, not low-income housing, it would be senior housing and also the possibility of veterans housing. But we're waiting to see if we get a grant application approved by DHC on the economic development side of DHCD, not at the housing side. Paul is probably knows more about the grant. We have applied for it. It was due, April 15th, somewhere around there. And we're still pending, waiting to hear back on that grant. Our goal is, we know we haven't been able to do anything with the center school, but our goal right now is not to spend any town money.
Okay. All right, can we start moving? All right, Mike, come on up.
Mike Volpe, Main Street. A question I have is, it says here that it's for 55 or older, and it says 2-person household, which I don't know what the definition of that is. So let's say we have somebody move in who's 56 and they come in with a child who's 30, and then God forbid that person passes away a year later. What happens to the property?
In the case of the Elm Street housing, there are requirements, age-related requirements, to live in those units. Likewise, with this program, if the primary owner passes away, it falls to an estate or other heirs, and they don't qualify for the program, they would need to sell the unit to someone who does qualify for the program.
Okay. Mike, let's do you have a follow-up on that? Did you want to follow up on that, Mike? You looked like you were ready to.
What would be the time period that they would have to do that within?
You know, I have not seen any stipulated time period for that. I think they would have a reasonable amount of time to do that. The state is interested in a long-term housing situation. They're also very flexible if people have hardships. But there's nothing in the legal language that I know of that specifies a hard timeline for that transfer.
Okay, Michael, let's just...
Just a reminder for those people here who would like to know more about the nuances of how this would work, we did a Hatfield Currents show on it, and it is available on YouTube. Since having done that show with this group, I've had a chance to think about this a little bit more myself, and in light of the fact that we do have the PVPC grant app into DHCD for a study again on the use of the center school, given the fact that there's a likelihood anyway that they might recommend that the center school be used for some sort of affordable senior housing as an option. I'm wondering about the timing of this, that maybe this is something that should be put off for a year until we've got the results of a study from DHCD so that we kind of have some sense as to what's going to happen with the center school, and perhaps this kind of these kinds of monies could be better utilized and directed to the center school option.
Okay. Go ahead, Bob.
I'd like to just speak to that now as a resident in town. Obviously, doing something with the center school is important to the community and the downtown fabric of our community. When that happens, and if that happens, remains to be seen. Us doing this particular project that's being proposed today does not prevent us from doing additional projects in the future with our community housing funding, just as we've done numerous historic preservation projects, either on Town Hall or in other areas of the community, or that we've done numerous multiple open space projects. So I think doing this initiative, which clearly, as you can see from the data, there is demand or there is opportunity within our senior households or our senior populations in the community by providing a mix of opportunities for our seniors to continue to live in Hatfield and for their family members to continue to live in Hatfield, I think is important.
Okay, because they had their hands up, Cindy, and there was a young lady over there that had their hand up. I'll take those two, and then we'll try to move this to a vote.
Cindy Doty, Main Street.
Louder. George can't hear you.
Cindy Doty, Main Street. I had a question on the criteria. I'm also concerned with the fact that we'd only be helping 2 persons or households, only one of them being from town. And the criteria says that they can have up to $200,000 equity in their current primary residence. So they could basically have a $500,000 or $600,000 home with $200,000 equity in their primary. And could they have a vacation home somewhere else also, or other rental properties? It seems like that doesn't seem like anyone would need assistance to me if they've already got $200,000 equity. And I think the money could be much better used to help elderly or other necessary or needy people in the town itself. $200,000, most people would like to have that much equity in their home. Mm-hmm. That are paying their taxes. And once the taxes went up, and I will tell you, being in the town hall, watching the elderly come in to pay the last tax bill they had on their fixed incomes, many of them are struggling to stay in their home. So I don't see how you should be giving assistance to someone who's already got so much equity and must already have some source of income or properties that could help them out.
The state is the one who sets those standards. They say that you may have up to $200,000 equity. It doesn't mean that you necessarily do have that, but when I look at the data about your town, I can see that the average value of a home is about $250,000, and I can see from the census that most of your seniors do not have a mortgage currently. So if you don't want to exclude many seniors from your town, there has to be a way to allow people to go from the big family home. This is really a program to let people downsize from those big kind of drafty old farmhouses that are so much money to pay taxes on and so difficult for people to heat and maintain, into something that's small and manageable, where the maintenance is taken care of at an affordable price. People have to have sufficient income to be able to pay some of the carrying costs of these condos. The condos on Elm Street start at about $245,000. You have people in town for whom that's too big of a leap. They're not able to assume all of those costs. What this does is it defray those costs. So it doesn't take them away entirely. People still need some kind of income, but 62% of the seniors in your town are income eligible for this program, meaning they're living on a fairly tight fixed income, and they may need some savings for medical expenses or other types of costs. So it's not the goal of the program to clean people out and leave them with nothing at the point when they downsize into something that's smaller and more manageable.
Okay, last question.
And then I'm going to just comment on, Dodie also asked about the fact that we would only be helping 2 people. Okay. That's now. The deed rider is for 99 years, so assuming that this assistance program paid for once now could help up to another 3 or 4 families or senior households going into the future, because the deed rider runs with the property. So while it's only for 2 units, it's 2 units until the deed rider expires in 99 years.
Okay. All right, let's move the article. All those in favor of Article... Okay. And is there a second? Okay, there's a motion to table the article. Can you just put that in writing? Somebody can bring you a paper if you want. Okay, motion's been made to table Article 28. There's no discussion on a tabling. There's no discussion on a table. All those in favor of tabling Article 28 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
Let's do that one more time to be fair. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
I say the ayes carry it. It's tabled. Now, when it's tabled, it doesn't mean it's a dead issue. It'll come back again, and it just doesn't mean that if you vote it down, maybe it's a dead issue. But tabling, they can bring it back another day.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Leschko. Can we do that, Louise? Sure. Why not? All those in favor, stand up. This is in favor of tabling it.
For 99, you have to rescind.
She's got my copy. And all those that are opposed to tabling it, please stand. You can sit back down. (101) agree to table it. 34 agree to not. The tabling passes.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Leschko.
I move we take up Article 29.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 29 in your handout.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Leschko.
I move in terms of the article.
The motion for Article 29 has been presented. Is there any discussion? Michael?
Yes, could someone explain just how this would work and how it would be managed? I'm looking at the entities that would be involved in this. First of all, there's a Agricultural Preservation Restriction Matching Fund. There's the Conservation Commission's Conservation Fund. There's the Agricultural Preservation Restrictions group. It has to be approved by the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources. The Hatfield Agricultural Advisory Commission has a say in this. The Open Space Committee has a say in this. And then last but not least, the Hatfield Select Board has to approve it. So can someone kind of by example at least explain how this would work?
Okay, so the reason this is being proposed, and this particular project was advanced to the CPA committee or CPC committee by the Ag Advisory Committee. Now in the state, when a farmer or landowner sells or elects to sell an agricultural preservation restriction or an APR on their property, the state looks for, in our case, because of our large and strong agricultural community, looks for a 5% match from the community. Because we are actually buying an interest in land, well, and I should step back, those APR projects can happen at any time during the year. And so if there's a closing in January and we have to wait till May to vote on it for CPC funding for our match, the project may fall apart, or we could vote on that project that was proposed in January at this town meeting, and then another one comes up for a closing in June, and we wouldn't have any access to money to provide our match to help protect that property. So the idea here is to set aside a certain amount of money that we as a community agree can be used for our match for APR projects into the future until the money runs out. Because we're buying an interest in land, it has to be approved by the select board because it is a conservation easement. Even though we're putting 5% into the project, it's still a portion, an interest in that property. So it has to be approved by the select board. And the Conservation Commission Conservation Fund is the only place where that money can be held that wouldn't require a town meeting vote. That's by state law, that the Conservation Fund can be used for purposes to purchase interests in land without a town meeting vote. So that's the reason for those two aspects of this. The Open Space Committee and the Ag Advisory Commission are both included in there because as these projects come forward, the feeling is that both the Open Space Committee and the Ag Advisory Committee would look at the projects and then recommend to the Select Board and the Conservation Commission that this fund be used for those purposes per the town meeting vote. So it's sort of a check and balance on the use of those funds if they're voted on today going forward into the future. This would not be a recurring fund, so this would be a drawdown fund. So once the money is depleted on projects, we would have to, if we wished, come back to town meeting to ask for additional funding into the future.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Bob, Larry Grossman, King Street, you've been spending this money right along anyway. What kind of annual funds have you been spending on preservation land like this?
We actually, the town has a number of APRs, ag preservation restrictions in the community, but most of those were done long before CPA and certainly long before the state was looking for a match of funding. So we haven't done, and actually with all the open space initiatives and other projects that we've done with CPA since we adopted it in 2006, we've not done a farmland deal. There just hasn't been any that have come up. We're aware of some that have come up. There was one in this past year that we weren't able to provide any funding for. So this provides us the opportunity to do that and some flexibility to meet the needs when the projects arise, depending upon their closing date or whatever.
Thank you, Bob. Okay. Let's do one more. We're already at 9:15, and I'm not trying to rush and be insulting to anyone, so. No, that's okay. I saw you walking today.
Joan Cox, Main Street. I'm really in favor of this. I think the regulation we passed earlier, which was the best we could do with respect to the solar power manufacturing in town, could gobble up a lot of open space. And I want to make sure that our town does everything it can to preserve open space, especially agricultural open space. So I support this effort very much. I hope other people will too.
And I'll just say, if any of you have ever seen the Terry Blunt Conservation Area, it's absolutely wonderful up there. Okay, Article 29. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Adamski.
Move to take up Article 30.
Second. Motion been made and taken, seconded to take up Article 30 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Adamski.
I move in terms of the article.
You have the motion and the article in your handout. Is there any discussion? Michael?
So earlier we voted $175,000 or something for the town hall. So this is over and above the 175, correct?
That's correct.
Could the selectmen speak to the issue of the scope of the renovations of the town hall in total? We had voted some money last year, and I believe we're out to bid, or we have something about ready to come in, bids coming in already for some work on the town hall this summer. So the monies that we're voting tonight are the next phase of this, if you will. And so could you speak to the nature and scope of this phased approach in terms of the renovation of the town hall, and also the implications of this second phase, which, as I understand it, could very well trigger the absolute need to go to a third phase?
Third phase. What's that?
Back to town hall. The facility was well designed for its need in 1930. It was, you had the elementary schools across the street, and behind it, the Smith Academy right next door. Had the gym, the cafeteria, the locker rooms, et cetera, the stage. But it doesn't meet the requirements that we have for today and tomorrow. We've originally came in a couple of years ago with a much larger project. We've scaled that back dramatically, and we're trying to do this in phases to minimize the impact financially on the town. Now, in phase one, which we're talking about now, it consists of the HVAC to be funded by CPC. We've got a first floor accessible bathroom. Currently, the town hall does not meet accessibility codes. It does not meet electrical codes. It does not meet fire codes. So this will provide accessible bathrooms on the first floor. It provides office areas, 1 story, not 2 stories, as the earlier plan had, that build out into the gym area, the former gym area.
Excuse me, are you talking about what's out to bid now?
I'm talking about what will be in phase one. Okay, that's so correct.
That's not what we're talking about tonight yet.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
This is.
I'm talking about phase one.
Okay.
So HVAC, first floor bathrooms, public meeting room, also out in that former gym area, floor area. That would be a room out there. Fire code compliant doors and walls, emergency lighting, emergency exit stairs at the southeast corner. The building inspector is requiring that. Now, there's also to be, our plan, a phase two. That would include an elevator. We've already got some funding from CPC for that. It would go in the area, down in the kitchen area of what's COA right now, part of that area, up through what's presently the town administrator's office, up to the 3rd floor, and enter into what were formerly called the community rooms. It would also include some 2nd floor work for a move of the museum. It would bring it up to fire code regulations with a sprinkler system, and we have pressure tested the water, and there is sufficient pressure to do that. There would be a new entry ramp on the south side. The current ramp that's there does not meet code. It's the wrong pitch, and it's going down, and there's no level for someone to recover if they needed to stop. In fact, it would be going up. And it would also include some windows. We did part of the windows. CPC tried to help us with the rest of the windows. We ran into some issues with the historical folks, so that money moved over to the HVAC, but we still need to take care of the rest of the windows. So that would be phase 2. And phase 1 is what we're talking about currently.
Okay, so this is about the HVAC system. Is there any other questions, or do we want to move the article? Yeah. Kathy, one.
I just wanted to ask if the HVAC system would be for the whole building, i.e. would also include the second floor?
Go ahead, Ed.
This is only for the new office area and meeting rooms and conference area.
So not the basement and
Not
not
the complete building.
community rooms?
Okay. All those in favor of Article 30 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Which one are you on?
31.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Boyle.
I move we take up Article 31.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 31.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Boyle.
I move the town vote to amend the provisions of the Town of Hatfield's Senior Work-Off Program, consistent with Chapter 59, Section 5K, to allow an approved representative for an otherwise eligible person who is physically unable to provide such services to the town.
Second.
You've heard the motion made and seconded under Article 31. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Leschko.
I move we take up Article 32.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 32.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Leschko.
I move that the town vote to accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5N, in establishing a Veterans Work-Off Program, including the provisions of allowing an approved representative for an otherwise eligible person who is physically unable to provide such services to the town.
You've heard Article 32. And is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Adamski.
I move we take up Article 33.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 33 as in your handout.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Adamski.
I move in terms of the article.
You have the article in your hand. Is there any discussion on Article 33? Michael?
Yes, does someone have at hand the current balances in each of these revolving funds and what the projected, is there a page on the handout? Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Boyle.
I move we take up Article number 34.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 34. This is the budget in your handouts. And again, as we usually do, we will take these by their lines.
I'm going to read this.
Go ahead.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Boyle.
I move the town vote to appropriate the sum of $8,704,692 for and consistent with the separate purposes and separate line items set forth in the version of the 2014 budget prepared by the Finance Committee dated May 10th, 2013, on file with the Town Clerk, and to meet said appropriation as follows. From taxation, the sum of $7,721,865. From FEMA reimbursement, $42,677 from bond premium to total, and bond premium $9,721, totaling $52,388. By transferring from water revenue the sum of $396,559, by transferring from water retained earnings the sum of $38,409, by transferring from sewer revenue the sum of $377,668, by transferring from sewer retained earnings the sum of $55,635, by transferring from ambulance revenue the sum of $59,065, by transferring from the septic betterment the sum of $2,603, by transferring from the cemetery perpetual care interest the sum of $500.
There's a second on that?
Seconded.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded on Article 34, which is the details of the budget. What we traditionally do is we'll take the first page, line 1 through 34, and give everybody a minute or so, a couple of minutes to look that over and see if there's any questions. Michael.
I have just a quick question on the budget, not in those line items, but last year we voted debt exclusion of $2.4 million for the the replacement water transmission line. What's the status of that, and is it likely that borrowing associated with that will in fact affect this budget?
It's a debt exclusion.
Pardon?
It's a debt exclusion.
It's debt exclusion, right? But
so it won't affect the budget.
Okay, but is it in the debt exclusion numbers on the financial summary? Is there some sort of a projection?
In this year's budget?
Yeah.
No. I don't
So if that happens, and we end up having to borrow money and start to have principal and interest, that's going to be in addition to the debt exclusion item that's in the financial summary.
Wait. No. Is there? There's no new debt exclusions that haven't already been voted on.
Has not gone out for bid yet, so no funds have been borrowed against the $2.4 million. It's going out for bid sometime in the next month or two or somewhere in that neighborhood. When the debt is actually issued, we'll already be in FY14, and so the first loan payment will impact 15.
Okay, so you say 15 is the likely first hit of that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so for lines 1 through 30, does anyone have any questions? Okay. Line 35 through 62.
Mr. Moderator?
Go ahead, Ed.
I'd like to amend Article 34.
Hard to hear you, Ed.
Pardon?
Microphone. It's hard to hear you.
I move to amend Article 34, line item 50, winter roads, as follows. I move to increase the recommended salary column by $242 for a total of $12,362, and to meet said appropriation by taxation.
Okay.
Second.
So the motion's been made and seconded to increase the winter road budget by $242. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Nay. Motion carries. Okay, so we're back up to 62. Let's go to the next page. Go ahead.
Larry Grossman, King Street. Line 57, Board of Health. The current Board of Health members are paid $4,800 to the chairman and $4,600 to the members. I've raised this point, and others have raised this before. We were unable to find a town in Massachusetts, let alone Western Massachusetts, that paid this kind of money. I would move to change their salaries to $1,000 for the 4 members and $1,500 for the chairman, for a total of $5,500, and it comes from taxation as it currently does.
You have to write it down.
The correction is there's only 3 members, so it would be a total of $3,500 instead of $18,010.
So the motions are made to reduce the Board of Health's salary budget, reducing the chairman down to $1,500 and each member down to $1,000 each. Is there a second on that? Okay. Is there any discussion? In the back.
Joan Cox, this is a pretty drastic reduction. Larry, do you have more detail about the other towns? You said no other town pays their board this much. Can you go into some more detail? Or, I mean, we'd like to vote intelligently on this. So.
I don't have the list in front of me. We've done this a couple times already, every time the salary comes up, every time that I've shown up at town meeting at least. And it used to be at this level. All of our boards are pretty much volunteers. A planning board, I think, has $500, and some of the other boards might have $50 a meeting, and they have a few meetings a year. Nobody approaches the Board of Health salary. And again, I can't give Joan a list of all the neighboring towns and everything, but this is a very high fee that we pay our Board of Health.
Stan?
Mr. Moderator, could we have a, Stan Pitchko, Prospect Street. Mr. Moderator, could we have a Board of Health member explain the magnitude of work that they have to do in regards to realizing a salary of that magnitude and what it would mean if we had that type of reduction on that board?
Okay. Go ahead, Ed.
Mr. Moderator, this is the third time I raised my hand, but thank you. I am chairman of the Board of Health, and it's a thankless job, first of all. We work numerous of hours. Last year, we had thousands of hours that we put in, and what we do is we do, right now, all of Title V inspections. We do perk tests, any perk tests that are involved. We do housing inspections. We do the markets and stores that have product in them. We do inspections twice a year for every one of them. We do kitchens, any facility that has a kitchen in it that's commercial, whether it's a barroom or a store or a restaurant. We inspect the schools. We inspect the motels and the bread and breakfasts. We also inspect the food banks and C&S. We do the churches. We issue permits for vendors that come into town. We held at least one meeting a month, if not two. We also do court appearances, and there's a lot of work to be done on the Board of Health. That's why we had asked for additional help under the expense part, and originally we asked for 1,040 hours of help from a health agent, and the Finance Committee and everybody said that, well, we're only going to give you enough for 471 hours. And the additional would have to come, the additional hours of 569 hours would come from the Board of Health, the 3 members. And so right now, there's a lot of work. We're a service to the community. It's not like we're just an elected official just holding a meeting. We are out there in the public's eye. Anybody that has a problem, we've been to numerous houses that have had bats in them. We have to deal with rabies. We have to deal with infectious diseases, and that's on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis. So that's what we do for the sum of money that we're asking, and for the thousands of hours that we do put in, we felt that we deserve a little bit of help here, and if it's up to you.
Mike?
Mike Volpe, Main Street. Ed, you charge, there's permit fees and stuff, inspection fees that you guys get when you go out? Is there inspection fees and permit fees? So does that help offset your salaries in your budget? Does that come to you directly, or does that go into the towns?
I'm not hearing what you're saying, Mike, I'm sorry.
Talking about the fees that you're getting.
You charge
Oh,
fees for
the fees in
inspection.
turn of this?
Yes.
We do have fees that, I don't have the exact numbers in front of us.
But what I'm saying is those help offset your salaries.
That helps offset the salaries and the expenses, that's correct.
I believe that all the fees that we collect are used to help offset the salary of the building inspector, as we just discussed in the other chart of enterprise funds. All the inspection fees, as we voted in an earlier motion, are used to pay the salary of the building inspector and the other inspection services. The Board of Health is 100% from taxation. And as long as I have the microphone, I just want to reference that other elected officials who work very hard, such as the selectmen, get $2,000. The school committee members get $125. And the planning board, I think they get $2,000.
No.
Or
500.
500. So that might put the Board of Health, yes, they're hardworking. It is a lot of responsibility, but again, these are town volunteers, really, that are elected to serve. They chose to serve on this committee.
Okay, Bob, you have a question?
Seems to me that if we want to have qualified people to deal with our public health, that we need to compensate them for the time they spend doing their job. And if we want to look to the future to get additional qualified people, as people retire, we need to compensate them
Okay.
for their job.
I'll call on you, and then I'm going to move this. Okay. All right, look, the night's getting late, and we've got to move on the motion. On the motion to reduce the salaries of the Board of Health from $5,500 to $3,500. You're on the Board of Health? Come here. She, how much? She wrote 55 and 35. 14,000. Okay. To 35.
Ellen Bokina, Prospect Street, Board of Health member. One of the points that I think needs to be brought out is that if the Board of Health is not doing their own work, our need is going to be to hire a health agent, which we're looking at a salary of somewhere in the range of $30 an hour. And for a full-time person, the math on that would be much more than what's paid the individual members of the Board of Health right now. So, and we are very qualified. We've been members for a number of years, elected to the town. And I'm also a registered sanitarian. Mr. Lesko is a selectman and also has experience in building and in previous inspections for food and housing. Mr. Corey Bardwell has been on the board for 20-odd or more years. Great experience with the lay of the land, with perk tests and soils. And so I'd like to say that our reason for submitting our proposal to increase the salaries was to better compensate for the work that we do and to allow the town to not have to pay a higher rate and to have an outside person have to be hired by the town. So I'd like to just mention that.
Thank you very much, Ellen.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion is to reduce the salaries by the Board of Health from approximately $14,000 to $3,500 a year. All those in favor of this signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion fails. We're back on the budget. We are on line 63 through 95. It's getting late. I'm seeing some yawns here, so my apologies. Okay, Michael, what do you got on 46?
Line item 46, I wonder if John could just speak to the increase in vocational tuition and transportation, what's going on there. I know that's been going up the last couple of years, and could you at least share some rationale there and what's going on?
You can be precise but brief, John, just like in school.
The vocational assessment you're talking about is what we pay to Smith Vocational School, and they have recently changed in what they're charging us. They've increased because they're able to do that, and in the past what they've done is they've always based their tuition on a year behind what they could charge us. They have made a change since then, and actually it could be a lot worse. The school committee for Smith Voc actually voted to delay the full increase of the tuition for another year. So that's the reason it's gone up, is because the individual tuitions have gone up.
Okay, 96 through 112. Okay, so this is on the budget. All those in favor of Article 34 passing, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator.
Oh, and one last thing. I just wanted to say, while we were partly on the budget, you know, when we see, I just want to say thank you to all of our police, fire, ambulance. When I think of that place that burned down and blew up in Texas, there's a little town like ours and they lost everybody. Police, fire, EMTs, and what a shame that was. So we're damn lucky to have the people we do have. Many are volunteers. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Leschko.
I move we take up Article 35.
Motion's been made and seconded to take up Article 35.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Leschko.
I move that the town vote to hear any and all reports which have to do with the welfare of the town.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to hear Article 35. Any discussion?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Adamski.
Yes, I just want to bring up a couple things. First of all, I don't know how many of you know the police chief in town, but he is in the hospital. He had surgery a few weeks ago. He's doing well. I didn't actually talk to him today, but I did find out that he's still in the hospital. He's doing well. He's supposedly coming home soon. So if anybody wants to send him a get well card or anything, I would suggest sending it to 59 Main Street in town and with his name on the envelope, and we'll be sure to get it to him. A couple projects we did this year that I'd like to bring up that, you know, your tax money is being put to use. The first is the dike stabilization project that should be up and running here within the next couple months. We had to wait to make sure the high water from up north is done flowing through before we get on that. As you know, we did get a 10-year contract with Comcast. It is working well. We are actually being able to pay our manager and possibly buy some new equipment for the station. So that is that's a plus for us. The next biggie is the water transmission line, which I'm understanding from Phil that that's maybe going into being started sometime late fall. So that'll be some other more money if you are going to be spending, but wisely, I'm sure. Over the years, we've done quite a few things, and we do appreciate all of you being here tonight. The board does, the finance committee. All appreciate you being here and supporting the town as you did this evening. In closing, I and my two board members recognize and salute the contributions of our many committee members and volunteers who, along with the town staff, make this community an exceptional place to live and work. In particular, we wish to recognize Mrs. Louise Sliz, who on April 1st retired, whether you realize it or not. I'm not done. For over... I wasn't finished, but that's fine. Wait a minute, I'm not done with you yet. Okay, for over 36 years, Louise served as both town clerk and town treasurer. That's a feat in itself. Her judgment and input have been routinely sought and highly valued not only by the Board of Selectmen, but by other boards and committees as well. In recognition of her exceptional performance and distinguished career, the Board of Selectmen dedicates this year's town report to Louise. Now you can clap.
And I'd like to just take a second, which we do each year, just to take a moment of silence for a lot of very good townspeople that have passed. We still have a lot of service members that are overseas, and God may they come home soon. So if we can just take a moment, and I'll give you a second. Yes, I am.
Okay, so you also need to applaud and congratulate Edwina, who is here in her one and only meeting as serving as town clerk. Because next week at the elections, don't forget to come on Tuesday. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., where you will elect a new town clerk, and Edwina will be all done filling in, because I twisted her arm to make her do this.
Thank you all very much for helping us participate in this. I know it's a night out, but thank you so much. I declare this town meeting closed.